Throughout the pandemic, we've speculated about how bad it is and how it didn't necessarily need to be so bad, knowing beyond a shadow of a doubt that thousands, potentially tens of thousands, or even more did not need to die. Not even speculating what would it have been like if Trump had really nailed this thing, but what would it have been like if he had pretended to care even a little bit? If Fox hadn't dedicated month after month of their programming to misinforming people and causing them to believe that there's no more important political identity for a person to have than someone who doesn't give an F about COVID. Well, we don't know for sure, especially for any individual part of that, but according to a new Lancet commission report, the US could have averted 40% of the deaths from COVID-19 had the country's death rates just corresponded with the rates in other high-income G7 countries. Now, of course, we in theory are such a rich country that it's not impossible to speculate that we could have done better than those other countries, but even if we'd only done as well, we could have averted 40% of the deaths. And bear in mind that as of right now, about 470,000 Americans have already died from the coronavirus. That's gonna shoot past 500,000 in the next few weeks. God only knows what it'll end up by the end. So 40% of that is a lot of people. That is more than the vast majority of the wars US has been involved in, let alone any other natural disasters, terror attacks, anything like that. We could not have helped but done better had we really tried at all.
But no, John, you misunderstand the glory of the American healthcare system, which parallels the glory of the American dream itself, which is, yes, you may, first of all, construction. Yes, you may have the opportunity, you may have died because you were not wealthy, but had you been wealthy, you would have lived longer. And that's the American dream, that's the American healthcare system. The wealthy, you should be very happy because you live in a country where the wealthy can do that much better than you.
Yeah.
Because they can afford to.
Yeah. We have the #1 healthcare system. Technically, for a few people, most need not apply. That's the thing. Like, sure, yeah. And by the way, some of those who were involved in this, I think agree that this is, look, obviously the acute thing is Trump and not caring and right-wing media and all of that. But really a lot about America really played into this. So Dr. Mary Bassett, director of Harvard University's FXB Center for Health and Human Rights said, the US has fared so badly with this pandemic, but the bungling can't be attributed only to Mr. Trump. It also has to do with these societal failures. That's not going to be solved by a vaccine. And those societal failures, there's a lot that goes into that about our healthcare system, the lack of both access and more importantly, affordability. That is a situation that has been bad for a very long time. It was made worse under Trump. And if you go into the actual study, they show decrease in health insurance coverage rates amongst different groups like Latinos, Native Americans, Alaska Native people, dropping by multiple percentage points. That is millions of people who ended up not having insurance, who went into the Trump administration having it. But that number is as high as it is because we haven't fundamentally solved the problem of access to health insurance and healthcare. So look, there's a lot here. I mean, just US life expectancy overall is far worse than other countries. If you're interested in this, please go and see the actual study. But this really is an indictment, not just of the Trump administration, although that is in the pandemic the biggest single problem, but a lot of problems that will remain post-Trump, some of which there have been proposals that could potentially deal with it, but quite a few sort of structural elements of our society that are not truly being questioned by the new administration are unlikely to be solved, leaving us for the next pandemic in a sort of similar, although marginally better prepared, because I assume Biden will actually care whether these people live or die, which isn't something we can say about Trump. But that it's a lot, obviously, but it is important. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of lives on the line.
And I would wager you do not need to have a pandemic to learn these lessons. And a lot of the solutions we could implement in order to improve the situation and have fixed this will be better for people when there's not a pandemic. And just so everyone knows, when you talk to your conservative friend who says like, listen, we are that country that makes the innovations. We are the country that has a capitalist intent behind our innovation strategy, and that is why we can soar higher for the highest people. They ignore that the lowest people are much lower here. And the vaccine's a German company. Like there are other countries that are making these innovations. So that's a BS argument. And the one thing that will end the conversation altogether, full stop, is that in America, we spend twice as much per person on healthcare than those other countries, and we die sooner.
Yep.
So the capitalist argument is wrong that competition drives prices down. It costs twice as much to do this stuff here in America. So that is just profiteering because your health is an inelastic good. Just because the price goes up doesn't mean the demand goes down, because you're gonna die. And it artificially creates, and you wanna stay alive, it artificially creates higher stakes inelastic demand conditions, because rather than the alternative, which is a more preventive care focused situation in which you can just go to the doctor and get treatment when you're feeling a little sick. People avoid the doctor like not just the plague, but a financial plague, because it will ruin them. And they don't go until they're in a position where they are sick enough where they have to spend every dollar they have or will ever have through debt to stay alive. And it just is it's a worse system than the alternative.
It is, and this is one of the situations where an oversimplified take that I probably give very often is nobody learned anything, nothing matters, all of that. It's not true. Like some of what you're pointing out there, I think people learned some things about our healthcare system last year. I think that there was some learning. It is frustrating that some, I think, seemingly easy lessons to learn really haven't been learned. Like for instance, your access to health insurance being tied directly to employment. Maybe we can come up with some situations where that's a bad call, but I don't think that fundamentally is a thing that the American people understand needs to change. But yeah, I think that there has been some learning.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.